Welcome once again, everybody, to CBUS Roundball Weekly. Kevin Rao and the Hall of Famer, Coach Ray Corbett, with you again. Another week, Coach. We have got so much going on. Now we're starting to hit that accelerator because we've got the end of some regular season games in the OCC. We just played the City League Championship, but the tournament's in full force. Already teams eliminated, teams moving on. We're going to talk to a couple of coaches that are still in it. And of course, get to our guy, Zach, who's feeling better this week. So Zach Fleer from 270 Hoops is back with us. But man, I know this is the time of year you enjoy the most for sure.
Well, Kevin, I'll tell you this, thinking about this time of the year, this particular season is about as unique as it can be, because as you said, we've got regular season games mixed in with tournament games, first rounders for the most part. And normally in the Central District, we've always had like a 10-day gap, 7 to 10-day gap between the end of the regular season. And that went on for 5-6 years, to the point where coaches are like, I don't want this type of gap between games this time of the year. So we would schedule like a non-league game. Maybe if your regular season was over with on a Friday, you'd schedule a non-leaguer for a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Right.
And then you would have a normal week, maybe not the days being lined up correctly, but still 6-7 days before you play your first round. That's not the case.
No,
everything's new with this whole thing with 7 divisions. And, some teams are starting their first game's going to be in the district finals. Some are playing their first game in the sectionals. Again, Division 1 or 2, they're the unique ones, 64 teams. They do not have a sectional. They're going right into the districts and maybe a district semifinal to a final. The rest of the districts, to be honest with you, the rest of the divisions, they may be shaved off at the sectionals first game, and they go right to so they may have one game that's been eliminated due to the smaller divisions. So that's where we're at. But again, like we talk about some of the games coming up, holy cow, maybe the biggest game in Division 1 this whole year comes up when Olentangy Liberty travels over to Orange for a rematch for the OCC championship. I mean, those are 2 of the top 3 teams in the district.
Yeah. And again, not a tournament game. I mean,
not a tournament game, and again, it's just going to be interesting. I think next year coaches will have a better feel for it again. And they'll say, okay, maybe we'll play on Tuesday, but we don't want to be playing on Friday with the possibility of coming back and playing on Tuesday of the next week.
Yeah.
My thoughts. Anyway.
Well, you know what? We're going to talk to, as I said, we're going to talk to a couple of coaches today. First, we're going to talk to Coach Janicia Anderson, or as we all know her around town as Coach Shaq, from Africentric girls team. And we'll talk to Chris Maul, who coaches the boys at Hilliard Darby. And these are coaches really coming at it from different perspectives, right? Because Coach Shaq has won 2 straight state titles with her girls. And you've got Chris Maul, who might be one of the great turnaround jobs of all time this year with the Darby boys, only winning 4 games last year, and he's only lost 2 going into the tournament. And he may have a game as well this week before he ends up. So
he does. He's got Marysville this Friday.
There you go. So
that would get him his 22nd game.
But you've got 2 teams who are poised to do well and could make long runs, but again, coming at it from different perspectives.
Well, you look at Africentric, both boys and girls, but really, to be honest with you, especially the girls. Coach McKinney and now Coach Shaq, she's a product of the program. She went on and played collegiately, coached a little bit collegiately, decided her heart was here in Central Ohio, got a job here, and now was on Coach McKinney's staff and wanted to be the person who kept it in-house, so to speak. And boy, oh boy, when you talk to her, first of all, I was impressed with her energy. I mean, wow, she's ready to go. And she couldn't say enough about the sisterhood of Africentric basketball, girls basketball, the Lady Nubians, and the traditions of what that program brings to the table. And really the responsibility that these young ladies carry with them when they go on the floor.
It's a lot on their shoulders. Yep.
I mean, it's everyone sits there and says, well, hey, they've got this. There is a huge responsibility. You don't want to be that team that, like we always said at Grandview when we were coaching there, do you want to put a picture in the locker room? That was always a goal. Put a picture. I don't care what championship you win, but let's put something up there during your run here at Grandview. And they're doing it big time. They're putting state to state. This team here has played a tremendously challenging non-league schedule. They went through the City League South 14-0, which is outstanding in itself, but they went 1-6, 1-7 non-league. But they played people.
Oh,
they
yeah.
played serious people in that non-league schedule.
Well, they had to. No one wants to play a non-league of their size.
When you know this is what you're about, you go out and you schedule the best with the idea that, hey, this is what we're all about here, girls. Yeah. Let's get her done.
And we asked her, and you'll hear in just a little bit, we asked her about, the fact that other teams don't choose their bracket, even though their record, if that's all you knew about them, you might not be as concerned. But when you know the program, you are. Now let's talk about we're going to talk to Chris Maul, who again, big time turnaround in his. I think that one of the things that I noted and people will have for you is the fact that his administration stayed right behind him. And then he adds the complication of, and you know this well from coaching your own son, as you achieve this success, he has a lot of challenges out there. And this year, they have hit him head on and just played incredibly well.
Yeah, for Coach Maul, I mean, how special is this? You want to coach your son, and you want to have success. And boy, he's 2 for 2 this season.
Yes, he sure is.
Something that they will be able to share. These are memories. And one of the things that people ask me, what was it like to coach your son? And when things, and it's 4 years. And so you sit there, you grow up with them, you watch them mature as young men and young people, and you watch the mistakes and the good things, the bad, whatever. But the one thing you have that every dad or parent, let's just be honest, any parent would want to have, I had 2 hours and a half, 2 hours with my son every day. And I don't know what's the dollar value for that one.
Incalculable.
And so as a family, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for him because, man, you want to talk about quality individual. He'll talk to us about his pedigree, what he's gone through, because it's been rough. It's been huge. And hats off to Hilliard. It's the easy trick to sit there and say, hey, let's move a different direction. But that says something about Chris as a coach and a leader, that Hilliard looked at it and said, maybe it's not always winning and losing. Maybe it's the process and what he's doing. And in his case, he's been on it.
Yeah.
And I'm just thrilled to death for him to have this year.
Yeah, me too. And it was a great conversation. So stay tuned for that. And then what do you know? We got Zach Fleer back this week.
Well, bring in the guy who's the expert in the field, right?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Prior to this year, prior to our interviews with Zach, I had no idea the vast knowledge.
Oh, it's crazy.
He could go through names. He could go through teams that played years ago. He's a walking encyclopedia. I've really enjoyed hearing him go through. So, and I tried to tease him a little bit, but very impressed with his knowledge. And, he'll sit there and say, well, hey, this guard for South or whatever.
Right. With full names, right? Knows
everyone.
Yeah.
He knows everyone, and he knows where they're playing, what level. I mean, it's very, very, very impressive guy when it comes to Ohio boys basketball.
We're going to talk to him today about the City League Championship. We'll talk about that Orange and Liberty game coming up on Friday. And then he's going to go watch a bunch of district games that we'll be able to talk to him next week about, but he'll preview those for us. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk to Coach Shaq, that is Janicia Anderson, out at Africentric, and we'll do it right after this. Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center in Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Kevin Rao with you, along with Coach Ray Corbett. And joining us now, and if you don't know who this person is, you have not been paying attention, because she's won a couple of state championships in a row. And now in the midst of tournament time, we've got Coach Shaq Anderson with us from Africentric High School. And Coach, thanks for taking some time today. I know you've been a little under the weather, so we appreciate you hanging with us and talking a little bit. Before Ray gets those, because he's got on his desk right there a sheet with the hard questions.
Okay.
Before I'm gonna big time. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna ease you into this a little bit. Just tell everybody, give us a brief sketch of how you got to what your path was to get to Africentric, and then we'll dig into, the great success you've had already. But tell us a little bit about how you got there.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with great people. I know you guys know your stuff, so just honored that y'all reached out. You were patient with my schedule, but again, just thank you. Happy to be here. My story is unique. I started at Beechcroft High School as a player, spent 3 years there, and then I transferred to Africentric my senior year. My best friends were playing at Africentric, Taisha Moss, Ebony Tony, and Shanice Cox. And then I had played All Ohio with JB and McKinney. So, the basketball community in Columbus is just real tight. But my coach from Beechcroft had left. My junior year, I had a great coach in Cynthia Mobley, but I didn't have any offers. I just needed that extra push to myself. I was even slacking personally. I wasn't being as receptive as I needed to be. So make a long story short, my mom, told me, you really ready to work. Coach JB, I knew what him and Coach McKinney had building. I knew my friends, how much success they were experiencing on and off the court. So I just wanted to be a part of that. So like I said, I had that talk with my mom. We made the transfer, spent my senior year at Africentric, won the teams, was on the team. We won the first City League championship in 2006. We beat the Brookhaven. If people don't know, Brookhaven is to us what Africentric is to everybody else. So we were able to beat Brookhaven, went to the district championship. We won that. Went to the regional championship and lost. I don't want to name that team ever again, but
it still hurts. I understand.
We lost to those people. But no, I ended up going to Wilberforce University on a full athletic scholarship, played there, went overseas, and then came back and worked. And Coach McKinney, we were always coming back as an alumni to play against the current players and push them and things like that. So when I came back for good, once my career, I played semi-pro too after college. Like I said, then went overseas. And after all of that was done, I don't think that was in my path from God. Ball was life. I have been playing since 5 years old. But the circumstances were what they were. Landed, called McKinney, was looking to coach. He's like, come volunteer. At the time, I had a job that I worked second shift, so I couldn't. But then he finally got me there, and I just loved it. So I was his assistant. My first year as official assistant was 2015. First JV head, I was a JV head coach also. So I started learning it. I was always a leader as a player, always was a team captain. I never saw myself coaching. Genuinely, I didn't. I thought I was going to play forever. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It was never in my plan. Like I said, I was always the line leader. You know what I mean? So ended up being perfect in my path, but I didn't see it. So like I said, it was the JV coach 2016. I was able to be there with McKinney and be pivotal in winning us that 2016 state championship with Jordan Horston, Leah Morrow, China Chambers, all of those amazing players. And then I ended up getting a job opportunity at St. Francis University as an assistant coach in PA Division I. Won a conference championship there, got to match up against UConn. People always talk about Africentric scores, right? Here's the thing. UConn was beating us at the half by 60. So when people say, hey, have you ever been on the other side? Yeah, on national television against UConn. They had Katie Lou Samuelson and all of those young ladies. But, went there, left, came back, won a 2019 championship with, again, that power team, Ariana Smith, Malia Johnson, all those players, Niam Thornton, Alexia Smith. 2020 happens. Obviously, COVID. We were on the verge of three-peating. 21 comes up, and then Coach McKinney steps away. And I didn't ever think he was going to step away. I never saw that. I thought, I was going to think about going back to college at some point. But he stepped down, and I wasn't comfortable with the program being in anybody's hands other than an alumni or a former coach or somebody that's been there. Was blessed and fortunate enough I interviewed for the job. I had to go through the full process, and I got it. And, I had to earn my keep.
And you have not looked back since, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Big shoes to fill, though. My teammate, whom I was speaking about, my best friend, Taisha Moss, she had been an assistant player, obviously played at Xavier, won a 1,000-point scorer, definitely one of the first big players to come out of Africentric. Our friendship has been 20 years strong. She had coached under the program as well, played overseas and all of those things, won a Elite 8 championship or went to the Elite 8. And then she said she would be on board. We were both coaching with Coach McKinney at the same time. She said she would be on board. So what better than two, alumni? I knew the shoes were going to be big to fill, but I was up for the challenge. Like I said, I don't think nobody knows the Africentric tradition beyond winning games. It's about sisterhood, togetherness, and just Black excellence. And I wanted to continue to be an impact to the kids in the community, and I knew I was going to be successful, but I couldn't tell you that it was going to go this way. I just had some amazing players, and it's just been a dope experience, very humble. It truly means a lot to be the head coach of my alma mater. I didn't get a chance to win a state championship as a player. Like I said, I won as an assistant. So to win as a head coach, man, you just can't write it no better. God is good.
Yeah. Well, pretty impressive stuff. Let me, before again we get Ray and kind of the nuts and bolts of it, in your team this year compared to the last couple of years. But how are your players not overwhelmed by the amount of talent on that coaching staff?
Man, they hear the stories every day.
I mean, that's got to help, though, right? I mean,
I wouldn't say.
And then they know they got to step up.
Yeah. And I just think I tell people all the time, it's not I hate to use the word, but it's when they talk about Africentric cheat and Africentric, I hate it being in the same conversation because we work hard. But the cheat code is that we walk those same lines. We had to make those same times. We had to earn that same keep. And like I said, when you mention players like Taisha Moss, and this year I have, whom was my freshman, Ashar Harris, Alexis Parks does our media. She won 2 state championships. You got Antoinette Williams, who I coached in 2016. The tradition of sisterhood is just overwhelming, but the motivation is we can tell them the same struggle. We can identify, with the moments. I tell people all the time, I genuinely don't coach like their coach. I coach like an alumni, their teammate, because that I was in that jersey. So they know that they can't mess around with us watching because we did it. But I think it helps them. I think it helps all the young ladies. We have every Christmas Eve, we have an alumni breakfast. It falls on Coach McKinney's birthday. So when you got Jordan Horston walk through the door, Sakima Walker after winning a national championship, you know what I mean? You have all these people. Renee Waters, whom just graduated from Harvard, she's a doctor. Alicia Howard in the WNBA. I can go on and on. It can't do nothing but motivate you.
I mean, there are college.
I can't name everybody, but there have been amazing women come through this program.
Well, there are college programs that don't that kind of alumni support for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Ray, I'm sorry, man. I just
you're good. Out there early. I tell you what, that was great insight. It was good stuff to hear, and it's a great story.
Thank you.
And being here in Central Ohio and seeing Africentric over the years, of course, I followed the boys a whole lot more, and I know Coach Bates quite well. And he and I served on the District 10 board for a number of years. And he thanks me every time he sees me. I was able to trick him into becoming the president of the District 10.
Believe it or not, he's told me that story. he's trying to trick me now, is what you should know.
Hey, speaking of traditions, here we go.
Yes, Bates has been tremendous supporter. He was one of my teachers. I love Coach Bates. Also a champion. That's my guy.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Absolutely.
But I've been able to follow you, and I knew Coach McKinney and the career he had. I was surprised, like you, when he stepped down. But he must have known something in terms of what he was leaving and the keys to. And, it's kind of funny when you mentioned the fact that, you were coaching at your school that you went to high school, where you were an alum. I had the same experience, and that's about the only thing I could tell you that was common in terms of our experience, is that I graduated from Reedy, and then that was 75, which I know you weren't even thought of as a person back then. Okay, you weren't even a consideration. But anyways, before you were born, and in '86, I became the head coach there. And I remember walking around with Joe Lang, who was the head coach forever and tremendous girls coach at Reedy. And I said, Joe, I can't believe I'm now walking around and now I've got the keys to this place. And he and I just laughed about that because, here we were both alumni. And it was pretty special. And to have the success you've had is just real special in itself.
Thank you.
So,
I was going to ask you, Coach, when you look at your style of play, what you do with your girls, is it different than you did while you were playing? Have you adjusted to, new players, different players, or have you been able to keep a thread of coaching that you know well?
Yeah, obviously I'm different. I'm different from Coach McKinney. You have to approach each era, each group of kids, each team requires something different. So you absolutely have to make adjustments. But when you talk about the core foundation, it is absolutely the same as when I was a player. When people ask me this question, it's like, I would be pissed if my mom changed the recipe to the greens that I love so much. No, keep it. You know what I mean? Every Thanksgiving, I might not want the greens. You know what I mean? We may not win every state championship. We may not win everything. Every player is not going to be WNBA, Power 5. But at the absolute core, the foundation will stay the same. As far as it being bigger than basketball, learning life through basketball, sisterhood, altruism. I truly did not get into this to try to beat out Coach McKinney with his championships with the states. I wanted to keep the legacy going beyond the state championships, just going to college. You got to think I've had in my 4 years, all my seniors have went on for full athletic and academic scholarships. That means the state championships are amazing. Not all those players were big time players, but they all have gone on. Jaden Persons is at North Carolina A&T for engineering on a full academic. Ariel Grace is at Clark State. You know what I mean? She won a state championship. Kanea Evans is at North Carolina A&T. I'm sorry, Louisiana. And then last year, obviously Cam is at Dayton. Natalia is at DePaul. Rayana Howe is at Bennett on a full presidential. Ashton Winfrey, Eastern Michigan, full track scholarship. And it's just Samara Thompson is about to go to Edison State. That is the tradition. And the hard work on the court, the competitiveness, no one person being bigger than a team. We truly do it the right way. We work hard. Obviously, we're fortunate enough for everybody to understand what our program is about. So, yes, we do attract great players, but there's also players like now I have Javiana Brown, who's been a 2-year JV player. This year, she's up for Player of the Year, averaging 21 and 10. She's waited her turn. Now it's her turn. And it may not be like last year where we were, 28 and 2, but we're in a running to get to a district championship and for her to carry us with what she can do with the work she's put in. So, sorry for the long-winded,
No.
But I truly, any chance I get to, because people don't really understand what goes into it is what's on the court. There's so much that goes beyond it. So when you ask, I have to adjust, I played the game different. My teammates played the game different, but those kids, we can compare stories. Like I said, on Christmas Eve, they all get to share that same story of being on that baseline and rolling their eyes at the coach, and I crack up because when alumni come back, they tell me now I sound like JB or McKinney. I'm getting soft and all those things. So it gives me chills for real how it has been the same, Kevin, like truly.
One of the, real quick, just an observation from last year. Again, I got a chance to see you guys play several times. And the thing that struck me about your team was their ability to be competitive between the whistles and then to show some I don't know how to describe it other than just kind of graceful class outside the whistles.
Yeah.
Man, I know coaches that would just absolutely kill to get players like that knew how to compete and then knew how to handle it. Yes. When the whistle was over. And then the other thing that I know, which again, if you have one or two people like that, it seemed like your old team was like that. Right. The other thing that I really noticed about them was and you said it really is their acceptance of their roles. Because you had some players that all could have scored 30.
Absolutely.
And they knew that wasn't the way, at least that was my take from it, from the outside. They knew that wasn't going to get them a championship. They had to play together and play within a system. And you'd see great players go with the extra pass.
Yes.
That's
a good shot for a great shot. Absolutely. Yeah. And not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but
no, that's okay. That's it. Yeah.
This is where we talk about just how rich the tradition is, because when you ask me about my story, I was a 30-point scorer at Beechcroft. I averaged a double-double. I gave that up. When I came to Africentric, I knew that I would be a role player. It was Taisha Moss's team. You know what I mean? Those Alicia Howard, that 08 group, Shanice Cox in 07 was still there. My classmate, Sharita Harris, Tanya Lee. I knew that I was going already into what was becoming a well-oiled machine. Africentric, they won a district in 05, but we had lost in the city. And that was our first year as a varsity team. I'm the second graduate high school class. So like I said, I'm able to tell these same kids, I gave up my double-double to get a city championship. I hadn't won a city championship before coming to Africentric. And I gave that up to rebound that ball, the city championship game. I had 4 points and 12 rebounds. And I tell you, it felt just like scoring 30. So I can tell them those same things. Ashar Harris can talk about, how she rebounded and kicked it to Moss. Moss could tell you how, she was the star player at Africentric. Then she goes to Xavier with all those dogs and earns her keep with defense first and then becomes a starter. You know what I mean? So it's really deep rooted. It's really deep rooted. And those kids and those parents, parents will be parents, kids will be kids, but they buy in. When I tell you, there's just been some amazing players whom you don't really notice what they did, but every single championship team and every team that even competed at Africentric, whether they won or lost, they truly embarked sisterhood and hard work and dedication and just believing in the impossible. What we are today, nobody believed we would get here. You know what I mean?
Well,
Little old K through 12 school, you know. So
yeah.
all those things are just, you have no choice but to go hard when you got that much.
Well, those of us that have been around the game for a lot of years and have it in our family, you can tell. You just and I can tell people you will enjoy watching it. It is, to me, it's just kind of what basketball is supposed to be. And anyway, I just wanted to, I didn't get a chance to talk to you after the state championship. There's a few things going on last year, so I didn't get a chance to interview you after the game. But those are the things that are pretty clear in my memory. So
Thank you for that. And we talk so much about, being gracious with everything that we do. We've been on the other side of the wins and the losses. So when those young ladies just buy in, and people like yourself, whom I tell them all the time, you never know. They know what they're showing up to see, right? A great dynamic team that's going to be explosive. But it's those little things that, to be honest, people aren't expecting, or it stands out because when you think about competitiveness and just how tough it get, it's those nice things, those generous things that stand out. And I always remind my kids, shake those hands. Like even the scores, I had posted it on my social media. It's truly not always a representation of those coaching staffs. We just had a game against Kip. And when I tell you that coaching staff, they coached their butts off and their players played their butts off the entire game. But my kids played hard too. And we're working on what we need to work on, but those players were amazing. You know what I mean? And they didn't shy away from the competition, and they shook our hands, and that coach wished me luck. You know what I mean? So
well, I know Ray, because Ray and I talked about that a little bit in prep.
Yeah.
And I know he has a couple things from his own experience that go into that.
Yeah. Well, if you coach long enough, you're certainly going to. And Coach, I looked at your scores this year, and you've had quite a few actually blowouts both ways. So if you look like at your record, 16-7, correct?
Yep.
14-0 City League South, and then you get beat by Centennial. And by the way, there was a young lady by the name of Corbett on that team that I hear played decent against you. I didn't want to bring that up, but since I'm here, okay.
Absolutely.
And I'm real happy. That is a great niece of mine. And,
yes.
And I heard
hats off to Centennial, Coach Bell, and that team. They definitely did what they were supposed to do. Great game.
So,
but I'm gonna let that slide. So remember them edits we were talking about? Edit that out. Let that one go. That's right.
I think we're going to lead off. We're leading off with this one. Okay.
If there's a Corbett involved, it's got to stay. That's in the contract. Sorry.
But you look at your record, and I looked at your record, and then I looked at your tournament draw, and there's a couple things that I find interesting in both. Actually, there's three things here. One, you go 1-7 non-league, okay, and that makes me believe you're playing some good people non-league, and you're trying to find out what I'm strong and what I'm weak at, and hopefully you were able to discover that. And I don't know, there's one thing to discover it, there's another to be able to fix it. Sometimes you can fix it as the season goes on, sometimes you can't. We're going to find out as you go deeper and deeper in this tournament, I'm sure. And as coaches, I've always felt like we knew what our warts were. Now it's up to you or somebody else to discover them. But if you can't figure out what I'm not good at doing, I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
So and then in that you had a couple where you got lit big time. Notre Dame got you pretty good,
Absolutely.
Yes. What was that, 79-23? But then you turn around and you had a 67-2 against the Ridge, 80-1. And people who don't know what's going on in a game, and Kevin, I was talking to him about this the night because we got the cancellation and we were talking about those scores. And I said, it is such an awkward, weird kind of thing to be on both ends. And I had a year where we were playing at a Salina tournament and we lost on a last second half court shot in the semis, which put us in the fourth place team or game. And we played Springfield, and they were mad because they felt like they sort of got the shaft the night before by the home school's officials in that tournament. And so they took it out on us. And boy, did they ever take it out on us. But they beat us, I believe, it was 76-19. And it was one of the worst butt kickings I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
But I went to the coach after the game, and I said, "Hey, coach," he goes, "Man, I'm sorry." And I go, No. I appreciate it. He looked at me startled, and I said, "It could have been 119 versus." I mean, he took the dogs off, and it wasn't his fault that our kids weren't able. It was our fault our kids weren't able that night, and I think that people need to look at it from their own house more than projecting and saying, well, why are they doing this and why are they doing that? We have a responsibility to our team.
Yes.
Now, do I think you take the dogs off? I've always tried. Be honest with you, I always try. That would be an uncomfortable situation. And now you tell me that Kip, who was the 80-1, they handled it, sounds like. Their kids did.
I mean, honestly, every team that we play where we were, we looked like the huge, the warriors in it, they handled it well. Like, I respect all those coaches. Pat Bowen from South, that's my guy, CCS. And he never tells me to take the dogs off or anything like that. But I've coached against some amazing coaches that tell me, give me your best shot. And they're doing the same thing that you just acknowledge that I'm doing when I go and play that Mount Notre Dame team. You know what I mean? I acknowledge that this is not my same back to 28-2 team. You know what I mean? I lost a huge with those 5 seniors in the 24 class. But when we go back to the recipe of success at Africentric, to be the best, you got to play the best. So no, I wasn't going to put together a playful schedule. We wanted to play. We wanted to match up, and my kids agreed to it. I didn't put who I am onto them. Every matchup, they wanted it. Now, obviously, in those games, it didn't go our way. But to know that they asked to be that team, to play against those teams, to have a shot at being better, like the rest of the Africentric program teams have done, you can't do nothing but respect it. So, yes, we've been on the other side of it. And I posted those same scores, and I shook those same coaches' hand. And yes, we know what our kryptonite is. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, this second half of the season is all about those adjustments. It's all about wanting it, surviving in advance. Fortunately, we can live to fight another day after losing to a Centennial. You know what I mean? We can live to fight another day. So those are hard lessons that have done nothing but help us grow as a team, past and present. My first year, I won the state championship. Purcell Marion beat me by 30. You got to think my first year as head coach, I lost to Worthington Christian in the district championship. First time in 10 years in Africentric history that we don't win a district. So pressure is a privilege. We know what we up against. We know what we up against. And we're willing to, approach the game the same way with the same dedication, hard work, and the same humbleness, and we just may we always win, but we don't always. So but we handle it.
But don't you think that's one of the hard things about coaching? And Ray knows when you have a smaller school, and you guys are the smallest, right? City League school.
Yes.
That's got to be one of the very difficult things, is to schedule, knowing there are going to be some real challenges. And knowing that because of your own schedule, you're gonna roll in some games, and just trying to get a decent mix. I mean, that's got to be, because the D1 schools are just playing as many as they can, and they're getting that in their league. But when you have a smaller school, you got to figure that out. That's got to be one of the great challenges.
Yes, it's a huge challenge. Because unfortunately the Columbus City League is not the most competitive. So you bring up that Mount Notre Dame score, right? And then you bring up the scores after that. Well, what lesson can I ultimately teach You know what I mean? Like the hard lesson, they're going to get it. They don't have any choice but to get it. But you got to think these are kids. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So coach, we got the Mount Notre game back. Well, the competition isn't the same. You know what I mean? So we have to be very strategic with our non-conference schedule because we only get 7. And I have 14 where, unfortunately, the last couple of years, I haven't, this is my first year in 4 years losing a city league game. That tells you, you know what I mean? But I know the city, there's some great coaches, there's some great players, but it's just, we're still building the league back up to like it was when I was in school. And it's just not there yet. So we got to get on the road and play those games because our schedule is always going to be designed for the end. I don't mind losing a game. You know what I mean? I don't mind losing a game. You see our record now. Obviously I don't like losing. It hasn't been what we've experienced, but it's the reality. Basketball is a game of runs, a game of ups and downs, and we just fighting to stay up. And that's what, that's this year.
You know what the proof is, and I think Ray was going to get to this point, maybe I'll steal it from him, is even though your record is what it is, people go running away from that bracket. So, people know what kind of schedule. I mean, isn't that the ultimate vote of how good the schedule is?
Well, yeah. I was going to mention the Max Prep voting system because to be honest with you, I am and I'm not when it comes to being a fan, and based on the brackets, and seeing where number 1, 2, and 4 went, it appears that they didn't want anything to do with you. And so you're sitting there with Fredericktown at 5 and Northridge at 10 and Fairbanks at 12 in front of you to get out of the district. So I think that what Kevin was saying, that is a true sign of the respect that your program has at this point.
Yes. Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I was just as shocked.
Doesn't mean you're going to win, but it does show respect.
No, it does not mean that we're going to win it. But definitely it showed a tremendous amount of respect. Like hats off to all those coaches. I know they're just putting their team in the best position, and it does give us coaches, we on the right track. Our kids may not have put it all together in the right moment just yet, but if those other coaches are seeing something, like you just said, maybe we're not seeing it yet, or maybe we see it and our kids just haven't. But those other teams are acknowledging how dangerous we can be, and again, that's a testament to the schedule. You know what I mean? I don't think a lot of these teams would be comfortable with playing a Mount Notre Dame. That's going for sure be in the state tournament. And we played them to the end, just like all the teams did us. But, it went our way, but we got a lot of work to do. This is a different team. Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit, about what the challenges have been this year, coming off a couple of state championships, losing some great, fantastic players. How have you had to adjust to this particular season?
It's been an adjustment, but every season is an adjustment. Like I said, I took over in 2022. Those kids only had a half a season as freshmen. This is a COVID crew, you know what I mean, where they only played a certain amount of games. So that was an adjustment on top of me being a head coach. My second year, Cameron Grant gets hurt. She tears her ACL. This is my player who was the number 1 player for our team the year prior, and we got close to winning a district championship. And then you add Natalia Nelson, Samara Thompson, Ariel Grace, and Janicia Bowers, Ashton Winfrey, and we figure it out. Then the following year, Rayana Howell tears her ACL, and I don't have that point guard. So I said all that to say every year has been an adjustment. Obviously, like you said, we lost huge pieces, but that's why I talk about that Javiana Brown. Shawnee Little has been a starter these last 2 years. So when you talk about the next best player on the other team that we've had to stop to win these championships, Shawnee Little has been that defender. So you bring her back. You have a Janicia Bowers, whom as a freshman was starting, hitting big shots in a state championship against a Chippewa. Second year, you're around Division I players and you're trying to figure out where you fit, and you happen in what I believe was the toughest game of the year against Alter. The last, she comes up big. So those experiences on top of the kids that been on the roster. They've been in practice, y'all. They're not sitting on the side while Natalia just dribbles the ball, and you know what I mean. They had to practice against someone. So those kids have experience. Faith Martin is a high IQ point guard. Asia Harris is one of our top defenders. Jayana Overby is a leader. Aries Grant, you know what I mean? I could continue. These young ladies, yes, they've taken their time to figure it out. Too much time, if you ask me. The work is the work, and the process is the process. And like I said, about the scores against teams that we've, emerged over. Our record don't always tell the story. We have grown. But those teams that we've matched up against, they were ready, and they earned it. So we working on earning ours, and that's what the schedule is designed, and it's going to come for this team. It's going to come.
Coach, one of the issues I'm sure they have with you over there is your lack of enthusiasm.
I thought she was going to check in a couple of times. As things were coming down.
I listen. I tell y'all, Coach. I listen. I tell him, if I could sub in, I would. I wish I could show y'all what I mean.
Let me just tell you that when you start talking about being a player and all that, get your game in now. Okay, so when you're coaching, when you're 65, and it hurts to walk out to midcourt, you don't want to be there.
No, you go. I think that's my hip. I'm not sure. That could be my hip. So I want to tell you the other thing I was going to tell you is I think the thing that we're trying to do in these interviews and trying to talk to people is to get a little bit past, the game that we see when we show up in the gym and we see everybody, really going at it. But one of the fun interviews we did last year was with Cameron, and I'm a photographer, and we got a chance to talk about her photography a little bit. But those are the kind of stories that emerge from these teams. And by the way, just a really class lady that, I'm not surprised at her success. And coming back after being hurt and that frustration and all the things that went on. And I know she's got Natalia behind her kind of whispering in her ear to, whatever. It was some of the fun things to watch. But I think that what people need to do too, if you're not familiar with whatever school it might be, it could be, we've been talking about Fairbanks this year because they're not right in our area, for example. Or if you haven't gone out to see the City League play or whatever, these kids that are on the floor are, they're working hard behind the scenes. Yes. They're fun to watch on the floor. And I'm looking, unfortunately, I've not been able to see you guys this year, but some tells me I might get a chance here coming up in the next couple. So hopefully you guys keep it going for that and we can do that. But before we go, I just, for people that have not seen you, and shame on them for not coming out, what are they going to see when they, pay for that ticket and come into the gym and see the Lady Nubians on the floor? What are they going to walk out talking about?
Hardworking team, tough nose. We're going to play fast pace. We're going to get in your stuff. It's going to feel the room like the room is closing in on you. We're going to work hard. We're going to play together. We're going to celebrate. We're going to fight through adversity. You might have a little animation from Coach Shaq on the side, or Coach Shar, Coach
just
Jeremy.
A little. Yeah,
just a little bit. But just a hungry team, that wants to emerge, a team that, like you talked about at the beginning, there is pressure to putting on that jersey. And they're not experiencing the pressure from my year. I'm beyond, or even Jordan Horston. Natalia Nelson left big shoes to fill, and that's just last year. Ashton Winfrey left big shoes to fill. So they have that. They want to have their own identity, but they want to keep the legacy going. So just a fun team, a dynamic team. We're gonna be full of class. We're gonna be passionate. They're passionate. They're hard workers, but they're even more amazing off the court. So if they don't kick you out, stay afterwards, and I encourage you to walk up to these young ladies and just give them some love. It's not easy playing for Coach Shaq. You know what I mean? So if you see them get a little flustered, understand it's not just the pressure of them wanting to be great. I don't take anything less. I have a short amount of time to help them be great people. And unfortunately, I don't always get to give out hugs with my words of encouragement. So just amazing kids. Our team GPA is a 3.25. You know what I mean? We just had Javiana Brown get an offer from Kentucky State. Faith Martin is going to Wittenberg. Jayana Overby is going to Capital. Janicia Bowers is she has Ohio University, Delaware State offer, Akron University. Just amazing kids.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun. They're gonna shoot a lot of threes. If they yell boom, that is simply celebration.
Well, I'm glad you got one here at Capital, man, so we can watch her play.
Yes.
Well, I'm not happy about this at all. Okay, I have a daughter who's the head coach at Kenyon. So if you're looking for academic strength and you have that, she's certainly in dire need of some talent. So if you could throw somebody phones that direction, she would certainly be appreciative of it.
I don't know how many. Let me say this while I'm here. We have a player for anybody. Not every player, like I said, is going to go. I went to Wilberforce. Taisha Moss went to Xavier. Jordan Horston went to Tennessee. Ariana Smith is at Dayton. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. We got a player every weekend. Tell her to call me.
I'm getting the feeling that this week you're getting a call, so just be ready.
One last thing real quick. You sit there and you say this about your team, about the importance of putting on that jersey. Based on years of coaching, there's certain programs I feel when they walk on the floor, they're up 10-0. And, at times I thought it was Grandview. I thought when we walked into the gymnasium, we intimidated you. Okay. We've had teams in years, 4 or 5 years at a time, in which that was true. And we also had some of the others. So I know what that's like to be on both ends of it. But Africentric right now, I think that if you told other teams they're not Africentric, they're this team instead, they'd be a lot more relaxed, knowing they're playing you and what you bring to the table, the tradition and such, I'm sure gives you a huge advantage 9 nights out of 10.
Well, I hope so. I'll take that. I'll take it. I haven't experienced it much this year just yet, as you hint with the record. No, but I know that a lot of programs, just like you said before, just respect our tradition, respect what we put out on and off the court. So I know that they're going to coach their kids up, but I do know with all the rich legacy, it's in the back of their mind, if not in the front. And if they could stay intimidated the whole game, I would appreciate it if that's the case. You know what I mean?
It's going to last all night, Coach.
We know that everybody is going to give us their best game. We're prepared for everybody to, shoot their shot at the best. You know what I mean? Like we said, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And teams are this is that time of year. I cannot wait for college girls basketball. The tournament, that UConn South Carolina game was amazing. So this is just that time of year. Survive in advance. We're gonna do what it takes. I'm gonna coach these kids up, but ultimately, I trust my group. Like I said, they've endured a lot this year, and they've stood tall. They're still standing.
Well, I'll tell you, I think you can tell a lot about a coach at any level about what they're willing to go and challenge themselves with. And again, the fact that your bracket looks the way that it does says a lot about how you've gone out and looked for that game. You just didn't live on what you've already done, which there are some coaches that we know, right, would just take those 2 state championships and live off those for a little bit. But you didn't do that. You went out and found games and did what you had to do. Thank you for taking some time for us. I can't imagine when you're sick if you even slow down. I mean, that doesn't seem like a possibility to me.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It really is. It really is tough. But
we're thrilled that you had a chance to spend some time with us, and we will be out and see y'all play. And I'm looking forward to it because again, I think if for those people who are listening to this and are fans of the game and understand the game a little bit. You will go out and I think you'll enjoy what basketball means to these Africentric girls and the way that they play. It was truly. I just got to tell you, it was just a lot of fun. I didn't know what I expected
Yeah.
because I did have a daughter that played too, so I've been in that world too. But it was. I just was talking nonstop on the way home, so it's good that I didn't get a chance to interview you because we'd still be. Yeah,
That's unusual, Kevin.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, we want to thank you and good luck coming down the stretch, and hopefully our paths will cross, and maybe I'll get that interview out there. All right.
Yeah. Thank you all for having me. This was fun. Appreciate all the support, all the acknowledgement. You know what I mean? Like I said, when we talk about keeping the legacy going, to hear that people still love watching Africentric, that brings me. I've won more than 2 state championships when I get that feedback from people who've been around. You got to see the great Will McKinney era and all those players. So to still be in that conversation, I know everybody don't like it, but it does mean something to me. And hopefully, I ain't gonna say hopefully, we'll see. We'll get that interview. You know what I mean? We're gonna get that interview. It's always the goal. To stand tall, victorious in the end. But this was awesome, fellas. Again, thank you. I encourage everybody to come out, see the Africentric Lady Nubians. Follow us on our social media, Lady Nubian Basketball. Like I said, these young ladies are amazing. Their parents are amazing. You're going to enjoy it.
Well, you all were one of the first followers of CBUS Sports, so we appreciate on that end too. So,
Absolutely.
So, well, hey, Coach Shaq, thanks, and good luck.
Yes.
And, we're going to have you back on before you know it, so thanks a bunch.
Yes. Take care, fellas. Thank you again.
We're lucky enough to have from Hilliard Darby, the boys coach out there, just a tremendous season going on right now. Chris Maul, and Chris, we were talking off the mic a little bit about the fact that I got to see you a lot last year doing some play-by-play for Darby out there, and I know it was a year that kind of looking back now as a building year for you guys. But boy, did you learn from that, huh? I mean, you're off to the races this year.
Yeah, I mean, last year might have been the toughest year of my 22 years of coaching. No seniors. We got off to an okay start. Had a couple of tough losses, and then really right around Christmas break, we had 5 20-plus point losses in a row. You know how film will circulate. So we had a hard time versus the press at Groveport. The next time we come out versus, Davidson, they pick us up full court, and then Grove City did. And, I don't know how most coaches handle that kind of losing, but with me having, last year 2 kids of my own in the high school program, losing like that, I mean, it was really, really difficult, but man, it surely hardened us for this year. I think it was a huge driver for our off season, and I think our kids were just hungry to come back out and prove that, they had some talent. We were just young, and there's a huge difference between the 6 o'clock JV tip-off game and the 7:30 varsity game. And I don't think a lot of kids really realize the pace of the game, the physicality of the game, how much teams prep and scout. And, what works at the JV level doesn't work right away as a varsity player. And, we surely took our lumps, but it's paid great dividends for us this year.
Yeah, I think you made a great point there, Chris, when you talk about the difference between the 6 and the 7:30. The 6 o'clock, the biggest thing is, in my opinion, and I know when you go up, in my opinion, when you go up a division, so I've been a small school coach my whole career, and I thought we did a pretty good job of prepping our kids. Mm-hmm. Okay. We watched, we broke down film, we did all the things you're supposed to do. And I think that gave us an advantage, but you can tell the coaches that don't. Sure. It's amazing. And at your level, at the D1 level in your conference in the OCC, and I don't care which OCC division you're discussing, in the OCC, those coaches get after it. they are at the top of the state of Ohio when it comes to having their teams prepped. And, Jeff Wursler at Academy, he and I used to laugh at each other because we had to come up with alternative means to run sets
Yeah,
that the other guy. So I would be looking down there and I'd have two assistants staring at him the whole game, saying, okay, write down what he has so we play him the second time. We're ready. And that's what you guys do. And I've seen your level of play, and you're right. JV kids, they don't have a clue.
Yeah, it takes time. And, every coach in our league has won a league title. And I believe 4 of them have won a district title. And there's no gimmies. They take away your tendencies, and they know what you're running. And then it comes down to, guarding the ball and checking out and closing out and
maybe a little run here or there.
Yeah, so it was just a huge jump for our guys, and I don't think parents and players understand that. We only had one kid with any varsity experience at all last year. He'd played some spot minutes for us as a sophomore, and our JV team was decent, and then they all bumped up, and then here's what really happened. We had 3 or 4 seniors last year, and I told them before tryouts, I said, we see you, players 7, 8, 9, and after cuts, they were like, we're out. So we actually had 3 seniors quit after our cuts were made because they didn't like where we saw them. But, my job is to be transparent, to be honest. So we walked in on a Monday morning for our 3rd practice of the year, and we got 3 seniors turn their stuff in because I'm not giving them a starting spot. And so boom, all of a sudden we've got the youngest team maybe in the state. And we're not big. The tallest guy is my son, who's 6'3", 165 on a good day. And now we're playing against Marysville with a 6'8" forward. And we're playing against Grove City with 7 seniors. And Berlin, who has 2 all-league guards. And Bradley's got a all-state player in Cade Norris. And Westville Central's got 2 kids going to college. And it was literally in Olentangy Orange and Arlington. And everybody just had experience on us and size, and it was really hard. But I'm telling you what, sometime around game number 14 last year, it clicked. We beat Olentangy here at the buzzer, who they ended up winning the league. We went 3-2 the second time around.
Okay.
And then we took New Albany to the brink. We were up on them the entire game. And we ended our season, I think we won 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 6. Right. And we kind of left saying, okay, like we've turned the corner. We're ready for a great off season. And of course, now here we are sitting at 19-2. So it's been awesome.
Did you have a great, because I'm sitting there thinking 19-2s don't come from, those are shocking unless the previous year, like you said, you started to turn the corner going 3-2 this past summer. Were you sitting there saying, we got a chance here to be pretty special?
I thought we had a shot to win the league.
Okay.
We had the most coming back. And my biggest fear was our players would think, well, everybody's coming back. But I told them everybody's coming back from a 4-win team. And so it's not like we won 12 games with everybody back. We had everybody back from a 4-win team. And we were very, very upfront and clear about exactly what we expected. And, if it had to happen this year. We've got some serious, I think the word gym rat and grinder is way overused. I think a lot of kids say that they grind or they work hard, but I'm telling you what, we've got a group of kids. I've never seen anything like it. It is contagious. They get along, they work hard. You know, when you win 4 games, everybody has an opinion. Even, you know, parents of the cheerleaders are telling me what to do, or, you know, some guy that's across the hall who teaches English has an opinion. And, you know, we have guys who are playing intramurals who think they can beat our varsity. And to hear stuff like that for 7 or 8 months straight, I mean, there was no doubt that our guys had a serious fire. And it's interesting. You know, I've had multiple people ask me who transferred in, or who was hurt last year. And we have the same roster, but we have two kids off our JV team who are, you know, playing spot minutes for us. And other than that, it's the same guys. It's the same dudes. You know, all of them are Hilliard kids. They all played in our travel program, you know, all the way up. I've known them and their parents for years. It's just a great group of seniors, and we have some juniors who are, you know, adding some, you know, great role player things across.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, just so I'm curious about you as a coach. I mean, people don't know, you were talking about the people that have opinions, obviously, but that had to take a great toll on you. And doubting, you know, what can we do to make this better? How did you do that for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great point. Our athletic director has told me over the years that he thinks we do a really good job with all the phases of the program, but we just had never turned the corner, you know, winning. You know, this is my 11th year. It's our 3rd winning season with me as head coach. But when you lose like that, I guess I really looked at it as an opportunity to look at every single part of the program. The summer weight room, you know, off-season skill work. But I'll tell you what I think that we do well is I've always asked other coaches, how do you do this? How do you handle that? You know, what does your off-season look like when you have all these baseball kids? You know, how do you do this? And so there's also me getting out of my comfort zone and, you know, calling over to Jeff Quackenbush and saying, okay, how do you structure this? Or, you know, Tim Casey, or, you know, even Brett Norris at Bradley. You know, just, I think a lot of coaches might be hesitant to reach out and ask because like an ego thing. But for me, I've always enjoyed talking the game and asking people how they do stuff. So, you know, we had to restructure some things and, you know, kind of really examine how we were doing some things to pull that success out of the kids. So,
Well, let me, before we get and talk a little bit more specifically about this team,
sure.
and where you're going and how you approach the draw and all those things. Tell everybody just a little bit about you. I know you're a Hilliard kid.
Sure.
But talk a little bit about your journey to get to Darby and the twists and turns that took.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I grew up here and I played for Steve Dedent in high school. Dedent was at Hilliard High School.
Survived Dedent. You survived Steve Dedent.
Yeah, he was great.
Boy.
I hear the affection in your voice, Ray. So
so I played for Steve. We had an assistant coach also in high school named Monty Roden, who was phenomenal. So then I went to Ohio University and I walked on there for 2 years as a practice player, you know, for Larry Hunter. And of course, he was one of the best coaches. You know, I think it's still like top 20 in all-time wins in college basketball. So
yeah,
I was a walk-on there and basically was a practice guy. You know, lots of defense, lots of scouting things. That's where I felt like I really learned a lot, you know, in terms of just, you know, learning how those guys do it. It was cool. So then I got hired on here when I was 22 or 23 to be a 7th grade coach and teacher in the building. So I did 7th grade for a while, 8th grade, ninth grade. And then I was the varsity assistant coach from 2004 to 2008. I worked for Stan Zodi, who was Darby's second coach. I worked for Brett Norris, who's Bradley's head coach right now. I was on his staff. And then I took the girls' job for 1 year. And at that point, my wife made a career change, which required her to go back to school. So I stepped down after 1 year. I felt awful, but it was the right thing to do for our family. And then in 2014, I was coaching eighth grade again, and the job opened up. And I was the fourth head coach in 5 years here at Darby. And, you know, and when you take over a program that's kind of been through all that change in leadership, you know, there was a lot of parts and pieces that had to be addressed. You know, the travel program being number one. You know, we were losing athletes like crazy. And, you know, when you lose, you know, athletes, it can become contagious. So, yeah, the first few years were difficult. You know, we didn't win a lot. But I have an athletic director and a principal who, man, they've stood by us. I mean, I know we do it right. We share athletes. We run a good program. We scout well. Our practices are well run. You know, we've had 10 college coaches this year come watch our team play because they're recruiting a couple of our guys. And every coach cannot believe how well the ball moves, the quality of shots we get, you know, how connected our team is. And so that's been my journey. And, you know, I was thinking earlier today about Ray. You know, when I was 22, Darby's first coach ever, Wally Vickers, had a Central Ohio basketball camp here at Darby. He hosted.
Yes, he did.
I just got hired on here to teach and coach, and they needed somebody to, you know, come in and, you know, run a station for the week. And I had got connected with Wally somehow. And I come up here to work camp. It's like the who's who of Central Ohio basketball. You got Tony Bornhorst, you got Ray Corbett, you got Tim Casey, you got Tom Souter, you got the head coach, you know, Wally Vickers, Steve Dedent, all these big time guys who had won league titles, went to state Final Four. And here I am, a 22-year-old guy who's never coached before. And I remember every day at lunch, we would have chalk talk. And Wally would just say something like, all right, how's everyone guarding the ball screen? And I remember just soaking up all the stuff that these guys like Ray here had been through. And, you know, so for me as a young guy, that was also really cool to, I think for 3 summers in a row, he ran this camp here at Darby. Yeah. I just got to soak up all kinds of nuggets from all these guys who've done it so well for so long. So that's been also part of the process I've enjoyed, is getting connected with other coaches throughout the years.
You know, I have to comment on one of the things you brought up there, and, you know, like you ask other coaches, and, you know, one of my all-time favorite stories is, and I think the only thing anyone can ever say is no, but, you know, you don't want to ever be told no. So we tend to maybe put a filler on it and don't ask for help. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help, especially when there's a need. Mm-hmm. And the best story that I can give you is the one that Jeff Wursler and I went through. And I've repeated this, so I'm sorry if you've not heard it, or if you've heard it before, I guess. But we had just played Academy, and Academy was in our division for the first time. I had a real nice group. Jeff didn't. I had known Jeff previously when he was a tennis coach at Academy, winning state after state after state. And just, you know, our trip out there in our van was longer than our match. You know, it was quite impressive performance by the Vikings. Let me just say that. Well, we're sitting there, and it was like the Tuesday after our game with Academy. And I get a phone call in the middle of the day because I think I'd retired from teaching at this point. I don't know. But Jeff calls me. He goes, man, I got to ask you a question. He goes, I know we're rivals, but I still got to ask you a question. What would you do with your team if you were in my shoes? Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, the guts of this guy to ask me that question.
Yeah.
And then I thought, you know what? How many people have I asked and they've come through for me? And
Yeah.
that's what I think there's a fraternity among
For
us,
sure, without question.
that after you get past the little hard crust on the outside, we all are, hey, if I can help you in any way, I'm going to do so. I think I helped him so much they beat us by 20 the next time. But bottom line is, I think that is something we owe each other.
Sure.
As we get older, if we're able, we should help. And
during COVID, in that off season, we couldn't really do much. So I had texted Jeff Quackenbush at Newark, and I'm like, defensively, he's so good.
Oh, they're outstanding.
And I was just asking him literally how he guards the post. Like, do you front it? Do you double? And he was like, come on out. So we spent 3 or 4 hours on the floor at Newark, both wearing masks. And he's showing me, how they do this and how they do that. And then he takes me in his office and he's showing me an example practice plan. And, here I am. I've got one winning season at this point in 6 years. And he's out there. He's won a state title and he's helping me out. And we have a couple younger coaches, in the OCC right now, and they've reached out to ask different questions. And I've always, given them whatever I could, and because I think it's just our job. So yeah.
One thing, since we've been doing this, with Ray's interviews and our weekly show, is I think people are surprised who are not within the fraternity, who may watch this and realize, number one, how thoughtful coaches are about the game and about their players and what they want out of it, and how important it is, even in losing times, to still be a good coach. And then the amount of time that they all spend talking to each other about the best thing to do. Because I think we all assume that you guys live on an island, and just try to get the other guy all the time. And that's just, I've found out the exact opposite of all that.
Yeah. I mean, even, within our own league, we play Marysville on Friday, and, I'll call him and be like, hey, send me your film of Jerome. He's like, cool. He's like, I'll give you Berlin, you give me Jerome. And, people share, I think they genuinely listen to this job until you're in it. As an assistant, it's one thing, but until you're in it and you live it and you have all the demands that this job puts on you, I think when you sit in this chair, you realize how difficult it is, and you want to help out people who want to do it right. Like Ray said, there are some coaches who don't really scout that well, and because it takes time to prep and watch film and draw it up. But if you have a guy, my philosophy, actually, I took this from Brett Norris when he was here, was if there's anyone who ever asks for film, like, we're going to give it to them, because they're trying to help out their team. They're trying to prep, this guy's trying to work. So I think, way more texting and phone calls than I ever thought would happen at this job. But, one thing I was thinking about is when I was, my first few years as varsity assistant, I was in charge of getting all the film. So before huddle, as Ray knows, you have to make a copy of a game, and you'd have to meet some coach up on Route 23 at a Home Depot, and he's driving in a red pickup truck. He's going to park on the south end of the building. So one great thing about that back in the day is I got to meet all these other coaches. I remember one time Tim Casey was like, hey, if you can get me this film by 8:00 at the McDonald's on Fishinger, I'll buy you a McMuffin and a cup of coffee. So I come in the morning, I copy the film, I run over. He's in this like old beat up white pickup truck.
He still owns it.
Yeah, he's got like 5 or 6 kids. And I hand him a film, and he gives me a McMuffin. And just that camaraderie of this guy wants to help his team out, and I'm going to get up early and get a film to him. And here I am again, 26 years old, meeting some guy in a parking lot who's one of the best coaches in the state. And it's just cool.
So now I work with Case during the spring, summer, and fall, and he should buy stock in McDonald's. Okay. No, we'll meet you at 7 in the morning, and you don't have to even bring a tape with you. All right.
That's good enough. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. So let's talk about this year. What a great, what a great journey, what a great response and learning. So let's talk about, wow, what a different landscape for the draw
Sure.
and what you're looking for, to get out with 6 different district champions coming out of D1. So talk a little bit about that and how you approached it this year, because we've had answers all over the place and what people were looking for and how to manage this kind of new situation, lower numbers to have to deal with, but yet, tough competition. So talk a little about your approach to it.
Sure. So we came in as a 7th seed out of 22, and with 6 different brackets, we knew that the top 6 teams would all go into their own little group of 4. So we kind of had to think about, who were we willing to, jump in with. We also knew that, based on the RPI, sometime around game 12 to 15, we were like 3rd in the area. We beat a really good Waterston team. We had just beat Olentangy, and we had gotten some people were telling us that other teams couldn't wait to jump on us because, we're not crazy athletic. We're not big. We're not super tall. We're not strong, but we play good ball. But I think a lot of teams were hoping we would stay up there so they could jump on us. So we kind of had that. I mean, I even called up Tony Staub at Gehenna. I'm like, talk to me, man. Like, I've never been this role before. We've never been at top, 4, 5, 6, so, how do you approach this? I called Tim Casey. How have you guys dealt this before? But until it was time for the draw, we didn't really know where we'd shake out. So we came in as 7th. Like I said, we had to kind of pick who you wanted to play. It's kind of like, all those teams above us all have a scholarship kid. Everybody has a D1 or a D2 full ride kid. We're seed 7. We got one kid maybe going D3. And then right behind us is Arlington with the D1 guy. 11th seed, you got Coffin with the D1 guy. So no matter who we play, we're going to play a team that's got a dude. And we wanted to stay away from size. I don't like to be in rotations. So that's like, doubling the post and, trying to scramble out of that. So we wanted to avoid size. So, it's really come down to Newark was a 5 seed and Pick North was a 6. We had film on both. Pick North's obviously loaded, fast, athletic, quick, fast-paced game, and Quackenbush preps like nobody else. So we decided to go opposite of Pick North, and obviously Coach Bates does a hell of a job. They just won their league title on Friday, but I really think you had to choose whether you wanted to play for a district title or whether you want to try to win one. We could have hopped opposite of Reynoldsburg and maybe played the 20th seed and then played Reynoldsburg for a district title. Because I think some coaches just want to say that they are playing for a district title. But our goal is, man, if we got a team like this, a special group, like we want to try to freaking win one. So, for us, our goals this year, we wanted to win all home games. We didn't want to lose 2 in a row. We wanted to win the league, and we want to win a district title for the first time in 26 years. So, for us, we decided us being the 7th seed, we just decided to hop in with the 6, just because we thought that would be the most like matchup for us. So, but obviously Pick North just railed New Albany, and they're playing really well. So, but we got Kaufman first, who once we put ourselves on, you got Arlington right behind us. We almost beat them at 3rd place 2 weeks ago. And so I didn't think he'd go in with us because I thought, we played him so tight over there that I didn't think he would come our way. So they went up to Newark, and then I think Pick Central and Groveport went down to the bottom of the bracket, and then we scrimmaged Coffin back in November, and it was a really good scrimmage. We're actually really similar teams in terms of how we play, really, really perimeter oriented. So we thought Coffin would probably jump on us, and they did. So, Coach Banks does a good job, and Colin McClure is one of the top players in the area. So it'll be a great test for the Panthers for sure.
So, so I'm looking at this, and so you get Pick North, who, like you said, they seem to be playing pretty well right now. I don't know if they've changed their lineup or what's happened here in the last 3 weeks or so, but they've had a pretty nice little run. But again, I've seen Kaufman. McClure can flat out.
Yeah.
Is there a limit to where he can shoot it from?
No, he can score from anywhere.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Yeah. And it's interesting the situation you find yourself in being the 7th, because what I liked what you said there about, do I want to play for a tournament and actually win a district, or am I just going to be happy getting there and saying, hey, we participated in a district finals game? Because you've got a group that's pretty special. Yeah. This is when you go for it. And, again, I'm going to go back to what I had to go through at times. There were times when I sat there and said, we're not that good, and I'm not sure we can beat those people. But if we could get to the district finals, weird things happen.
Yeah.
We do. And kids, I think kids are goofy. I think they're they're just a different – they don't have a clue to what's going on in the world. So with the success you've had right now, they're ready to go through walls for you, brother.
Listen, I honestly feel like our guys – once we got to 4-0, we beat Olentangy here at home. They also had no seniors last year, and they won the league. So once we beat them here, I honestly felt like our guys thought they could beat anybody. And
isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
because you dealt with both sides of it.
Yes,
you sat there and you're like,
the crazy thing is
these close games.
Yeah, it's the same team. It is the same starting lineup. Even Thomas Worthington's coach walked over before the game on Friday, and he had our 5 numbers written down. He's like, is this like the 40th game in a row with this group? Yeah, we haven't changed it at all. But I will tell you, last year, we were really struggling. A local coach texted me. He's like, remember, you get to write those names in the book for 2 years in a row. Who gets to do that? And
that's not always good, though. You know that.
Sometimes it's, I got these guys for 2 years in a row, obviously having a son on the team, it's his best friends. I've known these kids forever. We were confident that they were going to approach the offseason the right way, and
that's great.
Yeah. And I again, having seen a lot of the games last year, I would dare people to watch, and this is, I guess, so this is one of the reasons I'm happy for your success this year, is after seeing that, I think if people looked at you on the bench, the way you coach, the way you talk to your kids on the side during the game, I don't think they would have known your record or guessed it from watching that. And I think that's the ultimate praise for a coach, is to know that, and Ray's the same way. Ray's a teacher. I like the guys that teach the games as somebody who's kind of at the edge of it, and that's what I wanted my kids to get out of it as a parent, was to be around somebody who teaches and teaches regardless of what the record is, where we are in the game, all those things. And I could see that in what you did last year. So that's why I'm excited for you to be in the place that you are, having spent a few nights in Darby's gym.
Thanks. I think, kids don't make mistakes on purpose. If it's something you've repped and talked about and executed and they're not doing it correct, you can get on a kid, but I've never wanted to publicly berate a kid, or, I've never gotten a technical in 22 years of coaching. I've never, done that. And, I think when you see some guys go crazy on the sideline, I've always wondered what that guy's players think. when he's berating them or screaming. And I've just always thought to myself, and the weird things now, having a kid on the team, but I've always thought to myself, what would I do if my kid was in this locker room or in this huddle? I've always thought that. And so I've usually, just try to calm demeanor. And, that doesn't mean in practice you're nice and calm, because I certainly raise the voice as most coaches do. But, when you're out there, you got people in the community, you got your youth teams in the stands, you got your administrators, you got parents. And I think, we're in this job to grow people and to teach the game. And so for me, was really important.
Yeah.
Other thing about that is, my son's best friends are on the team. These are guys who had their bikes in the front yard for 5-6 years. And now, they're at our house. I have them all in class, they hang out. I mean, I know their parents their parents are my wife and I's best friends. And I was telling someone earlier this year that I did have a hard time yelling at these kids, because I've known them for so long, and they come over after the game and they're at my house eating pizza. So like, I've got to handle this really well. I can't just blow them up, because I'm going to see them at a half hour in my kitchen. And I honestly think that's been a good, not strategy, but they're just kids. They play so hard. They want to win. And, just teaching and talking to them like they're adults, I think is the right way to do it. So,
Chris, there's and I hope this doesn't go on too long, but I know you're familiar with Lon Kruger, who's a coach everywhere, Illinois.
Yeah, Florida.
And there was a time that he was a coach out at UNLV in Oklahoma. So when Ohio State played out at Norman football, I made a trip with a group of guys out there, and I called the basketball office. He actually picked up the phone when the secretary, I said, is Coach Kruger or one of the assistants around, thinking I was going to get the number 25 ranked assistant.
Yeah.
And he picks up the phone, nicest guy in the world. Coach, you can come into my practice. We'll have somebody there waiting for you. We'll take care of you. I'm like, okay, great. I go into the practice. I'm sitting next to a guy. They put me at center court. Now, everybody who is somebody in Oklahoma basketball is surrounding this practice. They're on the floor watching. Billy Tubbs, you name it, big timers from Oklahoma, because Ohio State, Oklahoma football is that afternoon.
Yeah.
So this guy, this gentleman who had been to like every practice says, he introduces himself. We're talking. He goes, Coach will not yell today. I go, oh, really? And I'm thinking, okay, he's not going to do that in front of all these people. He goes, nor will he use any obscenities. I go, okay. He goes, you know why I can say that with 100% confidence? And I said, why? He goes, because Coach never uses obscenities, and Coach never yells to his players in that fashion. I watched an hour and a half of his practice. Not one time. Now, he brought them over. He looked at them, spoke sternly, got their attention, went back at it, and his kids practiced their tails off. After practice, every kid came up to us, shook our hands. There's like 20 of us. Yeah. Thanks for coming into the gym. I emailed Coach afterwards, and I said it was the greatest experience I've ever had watching practice. I've been to, how many coaches, different schools have you been to? I'm the same way. I always go, I try to be a sponge and watch these guys. Sure. How do they do this, this, and this? He was so impressive, and his program, it left an impression on me forever. And my daughter said, Dad, you guys are now best friends, aren't you? You got a best friend for life. Be treated. And I'm like, man, I was like a turkey at Thanksgiving, all buttered up after that. It was awesome. So
yeah, we went to watch last year at Ohio U. And, Jeff Bowles is walking around with a cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee. He's just walking around, and, he's teaching, he's talking. He takes a sip, right. He presses something, he puts the coffee down, he goes on the floor. And, I just like that. I just like the teaching aspect. And I like guys who approach it like that. I think it's the right way to do it.
There's
Well,
a guy the
go ahead,
coach
Ray.
the guy who's coaching now for Philadelphia. I don't know how long he's going to be coaching, but he was the one that was at Toronto when they won it.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Nick Nurse.
And
Yeah.
yes, if you get a chance to read his book, outstanding book, similar type of ego. You wouldn't know he was the head coach if you walked into his practice. And just he tries to teach the game in that fashion, low key kind of guy. Don't mess with him now, but still it would be a great read for you. I bet you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, I probably would. It's the other day I was using the dust mop on the floor, and then I got the wet towel out, and I was wet mopping the floor. And one of the JV guys was like, "Why are you doing that? Why don't you have one of your freshman coach do that?" And I looked at him and I said, "Look, you're never above any job." I said, I have the best floor we can, so I'm going to go ahead and get here early. And I just think doing the right thing and treating people right is the way to go. So,
well, I want to. You're taking some time on the weekend for us, and we really appreciate that, Coach. And
really do.
I just want to tell you again, after knowing a little bit about the journey over the last couple of years and that kind of focused time frame, just really happy for you. I saw it coming. I don't know that I saw it at 19-2, but I saw it, what you were doing and what you were teaching, and it's not a surprise, I can tell you, for those of us that watch that. So congrats, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk later and do some more together, and we'll come out and see you. Really, thanks a bunch for being with us today and sharing, because that's, again, what I've learned coaches do best.
Yeah, well, sure. Thank
you. Coach,
you.
one last thing here. I know you've got Marysville coming up. All right. Are you going up to Monarch High, or are they coming to your place?
We're going up there.
All right. Make sure you say hi to Kenny Chafin.
Oh, yeah. He's a good dude. He's a great new guy for a while, right?
Principal at Bobcat High for a number of years. Yeah. I'm not sure if his boy's graduated yet or not.
No, he's still playing.
He's a junior.
He's a junior, yeah.
Awesome. So Kenny will be there. All right. Tell him I said hi if you run in.
Yeah, that's obviously Jamie Collins is on staff there.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. His son can shoot the eyes out of it. Yeah.
It's been I've had a lot of good conversations with guys the last 2 years also about coaching your kid and how's that supposed to work. Casey, Tony Staub, Souter.
I didn't get the call. I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother ball of wax is how does that work? And what can you talk about at home and what has to stay in the gym? And I learned my lesson with that last year too.
You never stay in the same bedroom with your wife.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we had some interesting conversations last year about how it was going to work. So it's been good.
Good. Well, I know your son's having a nice year, so you obviously figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. We got great kids here. We're super lucky. So yeah.
Good to hear.
Well, keep it rolling, man. Keep it rolling. Right. And we'll check back in. But again, congratulations.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center and Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Welcome back, everybody, joining us now, and we're glad to have him back. He had, his schedule and health and all kinds of stuff going on last week, but we're glad to have him back. Zach Fleer of 270 Hoops with us. And Zach, good to see you, my man. We know you've still been keeping an eye on everything. So let's just get right to it. What have you seen? What are you going to be seeing in terms of, we're finishing out the regular season. We've already got tournament games. We've already had teams eliminated. So talk a little bit about what you've seen and where you're going.
Yeah, so I had COVID last week. So
oh my God, we didn't know that. Oh, well, I hope you're feeling better.
No, I didn't know what I had either. But I missed 3 days of school. Was not feeling good. So didn't go to a game for almost a week, and then was out at Pick North on Friday. for their game against New Albany. That was a tale of two halves. It was a 6-point game at halftime, and then Pick North outscored New Albany 34-5 in the second half. So one of the more dominant like second half performances that I've seen. It kind of reminded me back in, I think 2017. Yeah, 2017. Pick North played Upper Arlington in the regional semifinals and blew the doors off of them. I guess it's the same coach when I think about it, but
Yeah.
blew the doors off of them. In
I'm sure Tim will appreciate you bringing that up.
Sorry, Tim. I'm sorry, Tim. Blew the doors off them in the fourth quarter of that game. So, that was a crazy game. Pick North ended up winning the OCC that night. So, saw that game, and then saw Northland win the city championship on Saturday. So that was cool to see for many of my students that I've had in class having a good game. And then last night went to Hamilton Township for Division III sectional final, and Columbus South was the only the only road team that won last night in the first round of D3 action. So that was a game that I thought South was the favorite coming into it, even though Hamilton Township, was the 4 seed and, came in with a pretty good record. They had lost their last 2 games of the regular season, and we're kind of reeling a little bit, and South took full advantage of that and just was the better, tougher team through 4 quarters and ended up winning that game by 17 on the road. So it's a lot of basketball the last couple of days, and it's going to be a heck of a lot more, starting Friday night. And then leading into next week where, probably be somewhere almost every night. So it's going to be
Something
fun.
tells me I know where you're going to be on Friday night.
Where you got me at?
I got you maybe Orange and Liberty?
Actually not. No, I'm going to do some tournament. I'm going to do some playoff action. So I was going to cover that game originally, but, D3, they're already going to be in district semifinals on Friday,
Yes,
which
they are.
is crazy. But I'm more than likely going to be at Hartley Centennial. So
that'll be a fun one.
I know. Should be fun. Centennial had a big win last night. They beat Beechcroft, and their junior big man, Angelo DeDelis, had 33 points and 22 rebounds in that game.
Ooh.
So
that is a big double-double.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do the stats? Because I'm trying to figure out how these guys are pulling. I'm seeing some numbers coming out of here. And, these guys sitting there, oh, hey, he pulled down 20 rebounds last night. And I'm thinking, we didn't even take 30 shots a lot of times, and they're sitting there getting 20 rebounds. These dudes are bricklayers,
I know.
And they must be doing the rebounding their own misses often. Something's going on.
That's how Angel Reese gets her double-doubles. So maybe he was doing the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I'll tell you, that's a lot. It doesn't really matter. That's a bunch.
Yeah. So
well, before we leave that subject, I do want to talk about the City League Championship. Because obviously you're teaching up at Northland and they got the win. Talk about that a little bit, not only in terms of the 2 teams that were there, and we had a chance to talk to Coach Bates before at Africentric before the game. I don't know if he'll talk to us now, but we did have a chance to talk to him. But talk about what that game is like, just generally, and then the significance it has for those 2 teams coming out.
Yeah, I mean it's a unique game. It's I think really cool. They played at noon at East High School. Really great venue for high school basketball. Old school gym, but it's been renovated. You got that big glass window there. So
yeah, unless you're shooting into the window, if you're doing video,
exactly. But no, it was a great game. It always is. It brings out the whole city, and it was just cool seeing like guys that played in the city league, 40, 50 years ago that they come to that game every year, no matter what teams are playing in it.
Yeah.
I saw that, we're waiting in line and this guy in front of me was talking about how he used to play at Central back in the day, before Central closed. So just seeing, city league of old and new all in the same gym is really cool. You get a matchup of a North Division team versus South Division team, and they don't play all year long. So yeah, it's kind of 2 separate leagues, really, when you think about like the North Division versus the South Division. And for such a long time, the South Division, North Division ran it from, like 2002 until 2017 when South finally broke the curse. And then South Division kind of had a control on things for a couple of years, and then Northland has taken it back. So this past Saturday was just a great matchup because you had 2 teams. They were both 14-0 in their divisions. Northland had a 10-game winning streak. Africentric had a 20-game winning streak. So you had two really hot teams, two well-coached teams, the two teams that accounted for the previous, three City League championships. So it was a big-time game. Great environment as always. You get every content creator, it seems like, that films basketball is there. So it's a great exposure opportunity for the players, with all types of outlets there. So just a great environment in Northland, being the back-to-back champ. They looked like a back-to-back champ and took care of business. And my boy, Owen Barugu, who's a sophomore, they call him KD, had him in eighth period class the first semester. Love this kid. Like, he works really hard. He's really humble. He had a breakout game at 22 points, hit 4 big threes in the first half. Just really set the tone for them. They needed scoring because their other 3-star players are all first team City. Took those guys a little longer to get rolling, and Owen kind of carried them there in the first quarter, helped them get off to a big lead. So it was a really cool experience for me, just seeing some of my students, showing out and bringing home some hardware again. So
Yeah.
So was it a game that was decided early? You said Northland jumped out early. Did they have a big lead and just maintained, or was it something that slowly they were able to gap it, or how was it? How was the game itself?
they jumped out. I think it was like they jumped up to like an 18-7 lead pretty early, and then they
Okay.
maintained a 9 to 11 point lead for most of the game. It seemed like every time Africentric would cut it to 9, Northland would bounce back with a 3 or a tough bucket, or maybe they'd get fouled and hit a couple free throws. So Africentric was never able to get really within 9 at any point in the game. Northland did a great job, holding them off. Barugu, had 13 points in the first half, had another 9 points in the second half. Our senior big man, Nehemiah McMorris, had 10 of his 19 in the second half. And our point guard, Deontay James, just did a great job running the show on both ends. So it was a game. Northland controlled it from the opening tip. I don't think they trailed at any point. I think Africentric might have scored the first bucket, and then they didn't really lead after that the rest of the game. So it was surprising, though. I mean, Africentric was playing great ball. They were 20-1 heading
Yeah,
into
I
that
know.
game, and Northland took it to them, and they just really were playing from behind the whole game and never were able to overcome that early deficit.
I'll be honest with you. I was surprised by not the score. I get it, or not the score, but the win by Northland. I understood, but the gap surprised me. I didn't expect that to be the spread to be as wide as it was, and that just shows you that Northland, they must be playing pretty well now. And they made an interesting decision in the tournament. They want to go to Worcester, which means they're going to have to get by Tays Valley at 18th seed, but more than likely, number 2, the Eagles of New Albany. And that'll be a totally different bird for them to go after. New Albany's going to come out there. They're going to be methodical. They're going to run their stuff, defend them. And Coach Case is probably watching film as we speak on Northland. So
it's when you think back to his UA days, they're Dane Goodwin's teams, and then into Max March's teams, and then the guys after that, like Northland was who they kind of targeted every year in the tournament. And he's been very victorious against Northland. You go all the way back to that 2014 run. That's who they beat in the regional finals to go to the state. So it was Northland then. And then 2016, they beat Northland in the district semifinals.
I remember seeing Seth
final
Towns
game.
go down.
Beat him in 20. Let's see, Dane had a game. This would have been 2018, I think. Played in the district semifinals again, and Dane had like 35 through 3 quarters and really took it to him. So he's very familiar with Northland. That's obviously a different team with Coach Tyhan versus Coach Taylor from the previous regime. But I was surprised too. I honestly thought, because I talked to Tyhan, I was like, man, I don't know if you want to be in that 5th district. Like, you're going to play a Sunday district final, and then your regional games Wednesday. His reasoning was, we don't want to see Westerville North until the latest possible time that we got to see him, because North took it to Northland earlier this year, back in early January. So I see the rationale. If they go this route, at the very least, they're going to see him in a state semifinal. So if that's the case, great. But, having to go to Worcester, you're going to play a team, more than likely Boardman from the Youngstown area. So It's going to be a Wednesday, 8 p.m. game. We don't have school on March 5th anyways, so our kids may be in a different, I don't know, might break routine, who knows? Us not having school and then that game again being 8 o'clock all the way in Worcester, like we're not going to have any fans there. If we beat New Albany, we're playing up there. It's a road game for us because we don't travel that well when we go outside of Columbus. So I thought it was interesting, but we'll see if it pays dividends. So,
Hey, looking at that South win, we interviewed Coach Spears earlier this year, and I'm not surprised that he got them going and to a victory. But what do you see for them coming down the road?
well, they got a tough one. They got to play Waterson at Waterson on Friday night, which that's I think one of the toughest venues to win at. A lot of teams don't go into Waterson and come away victorious. The South is tough. No matter who Spears has on the roster, those guys are going to play hard. They're going to play together. They're going to be physical. And that was the case last night. They have a really three-headed monster at the guard spot with John Glover, who's a senior, Marquand Feltz-Lipsy, who's a senior, and then they got a sophomore named Nico Tuff that had 22 points for them last night. So they have the talent, and they're tough enough to go into a game like Waterson. And that's one thing I like about Spears is he trains his teams up to win in different type of, styles, right? Like some teams can only win, in a slowdown game. Some teams can only win when it's up tempo. His team can win when it's up tempo. Like last night, they sped Hamilton Township up, or they can slow it down and win, tough games in the 40s. So I wouldn't doubt South at all. He's beaten Waterson in this round before. A game that really sticks out to me was 2015 in the district semifinals. That was like a breakthrough game for South. They ended up beating Waterson. That game was at East High School and won their first district title since '88 that year. So, 10 years later, see if they can, do it again. So that'll be an interesting matchup. It's a, top 10 matchup once again. They already beat number 4, so now they got to play number 3.
We before we spoke online, Coach and I discussed. We were talking about maybe a different type of format for this program. And he said, what might be kind of cool is have coaches who play each other like that normally don't. For example, tournament teams. He goes, now, Coach Vince up at Waterson seems like we've played them 4 or 5 times and we're always prepping for them. And it might be a lot of fun to listen to us talk about what we have to do to prep for them. And then here we are this year. Maybe it's a good thing we didn't do it because now they'd be giving away secrets going into the game.
Yeah, I mean, these matchups in D3 on Friday night are going to be good. Got number 1 Hartley versus 8 Centennial, 2 Marion Harding, which they broke my Cowboys' heart.
2-point
West had an 11-point lead with 5 minutes left.
Yeah,
did they really?
But you got to give Jamie Pearson's team credit. They're 20-2 right now, I think.
Yeah,
having a great season, and that's what tough teams do. They battle adversity and win. So they back-to-back city teams going all the way up to Marion. They got Walnut Ridge coming in. They survived a close one over Bexley, and then you got the Waterson South game, and then Granville DeSales, 7 versus 5. So crazy. I mean, it's nuts that we're in district semifinals on February 21st.
I know. It just is going quick. Anything else this weekend that you're looking at?
Yeah, those games Friday. We don't have obviously regular season games in the OCC wrapping up on Friday, that Orange and Liberty game. OCC championship game for Liberty if they're able to win. Orange has already wrapped up at least a share. So that's going to be a big one. Could be, potential 2 teams that could see each other in the state semifinals maybe, with Orange going down to Wittenberg for the regionals. Game, Pick Central, Reynoldsburg, always entertaining game. That's going to be an interesting one. And so those are like the main 2 in the OCC that I've been kind of looking at, but just really excited for tournament time. I'm not covering any more regular season games. I like those games that start right at 7 o'clock. You don't have JV overtime potentially, or a bus arriving late for the JV game. You get to a game at 7:20 and there's 10 minutes left in the second half of the JV game. So I like those games that start right at 7.
Zach, let me ask you, who do you have as your D1 number 1 team? I've got Orange followed by Reynoldsburg and Liberty. Are you there, or are you switching anybody around there?
That's my top three.
In that order?
I think I'm gonna side with Reynoldsburg as the one because I feel like they stayed local. Like that to me, it's like they felt like we can beat anybody in Columbus. We're gonna stay in Columbus, and nothing against Orange going
Oh,
to
okay. I
Wittenberg,
got you.
but it's like, hey, Reynoldsburg. When you look at the teams in their pod, 22 seed, 14 seed, 15 seed, nobody really wants to play them, but they get to that regional semifinal. I think if it's Pickerington North, that's an interesting matchup for them. I think North has the athletes to hang with Reynoldsburg, and Coach Jason Bates, like he's another coach that he can win a game in the 40s and really slow it down and make it ugly, and that could be potential kryptonite for Reynoldsburg if it is a game that has to be won like
Neighborhood
that.
rivalry there.
Yeah, yeah.
It is, and Arness Lawson, big time, the Duquesne commit. I think he might be the best player in the area when he's really on his game. Like there's nobody really like him in the area as far as just being an athlete that can make shots, and it's really impossible to guard. New Albany had no answer for him in that game on Friday night, and then he let his teammates kind of carry the load in the second half. So, but yeah, I think Reynoldsburg is my one. I'd go Orange 2, but really it's like 1A, 1B with those two, and then Liberty 3. But I think those are the
Gotcha.
top three far and away.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey.
we're going to get you out of here. We know you're recovering, so we don't want to tax it any more than we have to for this week, because we know next week we'll have plenty to talk about, coming out of all this and where people are going to go. So we'll encourage people to do that. I want to remind people too, just because I actually pay monthly on the Substack at 270 Hoops. If you want scores and stories and video and all kinds of stuff, you can find them. Give them that web address, Zach. I mean, I know it's a Substack / but make sure I've got it right. Tell everybody where they can go to do that.
Yeah, it's just 270hoops.substack.com. So basically what it is, on our regular 270 Hoops account, on that website, we had like a paywall through Sports Engine, and then they ended up getting rid of that. So we had to kind of pivot and find something different. Went to Substack. I love it. It's such a great platform. I love that everything is sent straight to the email, so it's very easy to read. So check out the Substack. We like Kevin was saying, we have scores, video, player profiles, player scouting reports. We do some feature articles, especially recruiting articles in the off season. And then, every Friday I typically do like a games to watch and just give, a breakdown of the top games and why they're the top games. So it's only, $5 a month if you want to support our work and get access to everything. And then we also have all the recruiting information you could find as well on the Substack that you can click on there and see, who's got the offers and who's committed where. And it's just really cool to kind of get an eye on, who the top guys in the area are and who's getting recruited by who.
Totally worth giving up a soda at lunch one day a week, and because by the time you're done, that's about what it costs. So I would tell you plenty of information there. We just relaunched CBUS Sports, but what we're doing is trying to take lanes where other people aren't, and where people do it better than we do, we want to send them there. And so 270 Hoops is, when it comes to high school basketball, that's the place to be. So we're going to make sure that everybody knows that. And we'll just keep plugging away for you, all right? But accumulate some fantastic information over the next week, and we'll give you as much time as you need so we can get caught up on everything. But thanks. Hope you're feeling better, man, and that it just keeps getting better, all right?
I know I'm feeling good when I join in on the PE games that we're doing. So played a lot of handball.
How'd you do? How'd you do today?
First period did okay. I'm finding I'm getting older and the kids are getting younger and more athletic. So
are they getting taller on you? Or is it your lack of hops that are starting to shine through?
It's just they're just more athletic than I am. I don't have it like I used to. They started telling me I'm old when I'm not scoring like I usually do. So
well, Ray and I realized when those days were happening is when we couldn't win one-on-one in the driveway anymore with our kids. Yeah, that's when you got
fouled harder, Kevin. I'm like you. I know. I'm from the west side of Columbus. I'll flip over the fence if I have to to win.
Yeah. And it was usually followed by, "That's not a foul."
Hey, you're soft, son. You're soft.
All right. Hey, Zach, thanks a bunch, man. Be safe on the road, and we'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it, guys.
Welcome back to our final segment today. Kevin Rouch and Coach Ray Corbett with you. And again, we get questions once in a while from people. Yes, my 3 sons all played for Ray for 4 years each. That's a lot of you looking up at me in the stands as the crazy dad. So there you go.
We tried to keep you as far away from the bench and floor as possible.
You know, I never did sit on your side. Did you know that? I never, not a single day.
Actually, I don't want you to say that I think you were insignificant, but that was the least of my issues.
Oh, no. I totally get that. Again, I come from a coaching family. I totally get it. So, yeah. Okay, now, we've had some great conversations today. Talking to Coach Shaq, talking from Africentric girls team, Chris Maul from the Darby boys, Zach Fleer back with us today with some great insights. But now it is time. Now we get serious. Now we look at and this is the last week. Well, I tell you what, you'll have to look at it next week, right?
Yeah,
for what happened.
One division.
Okay.
One division.
No, that's okay. Because then we're the conversation will head toward donuts and award ceremonies. We're going to figure it out. All right. Because as you know, that's the Corbett Prize is a couple dozen donuts. So, and if anybody, Anthony Tenney, Stacy listening from DK, if you know Grandy, you know the DK Diner. I think this is a perfect symbiotic advertising relationship for them to spot us some donuts. What do you think?
Well, my concern is on the drive up to wherever those donuts make it. Because if we bring milk with us, we're in deep doo-doo.
You and I have had a couple of DK donuts. Yeah, we've had a couple of DK donuts in our time, for sure. Okay, so let's start with Division I and let's talk about your poll, but then games that will be played within each of these divisions as we go. Okay, you ready? So let's start with Division I.
All right, so again, the key non-league game in the OCC this weekend, Friday night, is Liberty visiting Orange. And as you heard earlier, Zach has Reynoldsburg as his number 1 in Central Ohio. I, on the other hand, I'm going to go with Orange as my 1, Reynoldsburg 2, and Liberty 3. Things could flip around, though, with this big game this Friday night. But I've got faith that Orange will hold serve. So that's a non-league. The first round of those games aren't until next Wednesday, the 26th. And in my opinion, the game of the first round, and there's some other good ones. There's a couple decent ones, but to me is the Kaufman-Darby game held at Darby. Everyone is sitting there saying they're waiting for the shoe to drop on Darby. So Coach Maul and his Hilliard Darby squad, they're going to be tested. Kaufman can play. They're in a great division in that OCC, and that should be a great game. But Coach Darby's got Marysville this weekend as a warm-up and as a tune-up, and then they get to play Kaufman at home. That is a phenomenal – that will be a tremendous environment.
Yeah,
so that's the number 1 D1 game of the week. D2, we got Westerville North still solid ahead of everyone else. And they could lose the first round, and I'd still have them as my number 1. They are quite special. They start on Monday. All right, their first round, everybody, all 20 teams will be playing Monday. Okay, so we're going to get it down to 10 after round 1. I'm sort of going with a game that sort of caught my eye, and that's going to be Westerville Central heading over to Tommy Worthington. All right, Worthington's the number 7 seed. And quite honestly, they've got a shot to get out because 8 and 9 is Kilbourne and Mount Vernon, and those are the 4 teams in that particular bracket to be the 4th district champion in Central Ohio, D2. All right. So again, North's my number 1. New Albany, who took it on the chin against Pick Central or Pick North on Friday. One thing though, Coach Casey's got to be proud of his team. They got lit in the second half versus North. they came back the next day and beat Springfield. You know, that bounce back win, that has to make the weekend a little bit easier to handle.
Yeah.
You know, and get you going into the tournament at least on the right foot. Okay. D3. I tell you what, you flip a coin and tell me which of these teams is number one, because it is difficult to figure it out. The Hawks led all year long. Hartley Hawks, they're my number one, but not by much. But Hartley's number one. I got the Stallions now. They were my team to watch out for about 3 weeks ago. Well, they slid up to number two and actually beat Hartley the last time they played each other.
They got Big Mo.
They got big. If Mo's works for anything, that's going to be. Now, game of the week, and it's going to be Friday night. Okay, Friday night. So they're into their second round district semi games. I've got Walnut Ridge going up to Marion Harding. Ridge is the 6th seed. Harding's 2. Harding just got by West High School, the Cowboys. Great comeback to win at home. All right. And now they've got Ridge. Interesting day at the park. That will be a good one. To be honest, Harding now has beaten, I believe, Southwest back-to-back, and now they're going for the 3rd straight City League team. So good scheduling up there to get prepared for a fine Walnut Ridge squad.
Actually, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good job of scheduling. D4, I don't know which one to go with. You know, we had Heath on, River Valley, Heath, both showed up as 20-2. Both of them had impressive wins this season. You know, I know one better than the other, but they're both, I don't know. We're not going to take 2 drives because those drives right there, there's not enough gas to get it out to River Valley and then to Heath. So we're going to have to make a pick. I'm going to go Bulldogs.
That's where I'm going. I'm going Heath. Yep.
And I'm not sure if that's the right call, to be honest with you, but I just think early in the year they played some, you know, they swept a pretty good Licking Heights team, Granville as well. Maybe just a little nod to them over the Vikings.
Yeah, that Licking Valley League is not easy. Right.
No, I mean, that's Licking Valley. The Licking County League strong. River Valley's in a nice league as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but I'm still going to go.
I just think there's a few bigger teams in that Licking County League that you got to play some bigger.
And here's my game of the week there. That's Saturday, 1:00 up at Buck Valley, number 6 Buck Valley versus the aforementioned squad, the Tigers of East.
Yeah.
All right. So the East High Tigers go up there and play. One's 13-9, the other's 9-11. Should be interesting.
I think it'd be a good game.
It's the bragging rights.
Yep.
Saturday, another good day. Another good day for Division 5. The gauntlet begins. I have put Academy, who's 22-0. They're my number one. All right. They've been my number one all year long, even though Max Prep put Africentric. Africentric loses in the City League. Ugh. Does that put up? No, it doesn't. I kept them at 2. I've got the Silver Knights at 3. I got the Harvest Prepsters at 4. And I've got, unfortunately, who is it? 21-1, 20-2, 21-1, Fairbanks. Oh, my.
Yeah.
They almost perfection themselves.
Yeah.
But I think the caliber of the teams that these other schools played is higher than the Banks. So I'm going to go with them over Fairbanks. And probably the game of Saturday of consequences. Vegas might like this. This is a 4 versus 12 game.
I'll look that up. Yeah, go ahead.
That's always the upset special in the tournament.
Yeah.
Worthington Christian, though, is going to be going to Fairbanks. And I'm telling you, Worthington Christian played a pretty difficult league schedule, but their non-league schedule was very strong as well. And they only had 3 or 4 wins this year. So on paper, it looks like a cakewalk for the Banks. But again, a lot of tradition at Worthington Christian.
Oh, boy. Yeah, yes.
We will see.
And they will travel.
All right.
Yeah.
6, D6. All right. Friday night special is D6. Cardington, who is now 17-6. Okay. They had lost 4 previous in a row going into the tournament, and then they had a good night against the Wellingtons, the Jags. They have Bernie Union coming their way. That might be the drive of the year.
Yeah.
Sugar Grove up to Cardington.
Yeah.
Pack them, baby. Pack them.
Yeah, boy, you might leave the day before on that one.
Oh, my Lord. I don't know what the Ohio high school rule is about how far you can drive, but they're stretching it here.
At least, thank God for the bypass. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. That's the only team that's got to go through 2 bypasses.
Yeah,
they're going to do the 270 as well as the Lancaster bypass.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one around Cardington, Candlewood Lake. Who knows? But anyway,
who knows?
Yeah, 1 o'clock kickoff there for the Bernies and the Cardis. Okay, West Jeff Grove City play. Northmore, who's my number 3. Tree of Life. So we go Cardington, Tree of Life as the top 2 teams. So we're going to keep the Cardingtons up there at number 1, even though Tree's record is better. I looked at the schedule. I've got to side with Cardington playing better people. Thus, I'm going to go with them. And that gets me to the game of the day in Division 6. And that is the Berg. Centerburg is going to visit number 2 seeded Tree in Clintonville. See if they can pull off a little magic carpet ride and get your life there. Okay. And again, Centerburg is the 4 seed, so it's not a huge gap here.
Oh, I think that'll be a good one.
I do too. I think that could be a fun one.
Centerburg always plays more physical than their division, if that makes sense. I think they come out and play. I mean, they just play tough in the half court, and it'll be interesting to see how Tree adjusts to that.
Well, that gets us then to Division 7. And I have been singing the praises of Patriot Prep for the last month or so. They are my number 1 team. They're 16-6 as a finish. Their last loss was to Up Arlington.
Oh, gosh. Talking about punching up.
You think they scheduled up a tad?
A little bit.
Just a tear. Just a little bit there. All right. So, yeah, we've got them. They lost to them. They lost to Arlington, Franklin Heights, Wheeling Central Catholic, and Harvest Prep, just to name a few.
Wow, talking about stacking your schedule. Geez.
Once again, coach sees what he's got, reacts, says, let's schedule up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what our warts are and see if we can work on those so that they can be a less of a wart, which I have no idea what that would be, a bump. But anyways, bottom line, Patriots my 1, Shekinah's 2, Northside Christian has played an outstanding schedule as well. They're 3, Fisher Catholic. So the first round games, which are tomorrow night, Thursday night, there's really no biggies. There's Granville Christian 8 versus Newark Catholic 9. The Danvilles travel to Fisher. The second round, which is the district semis, and I want to know where this game, it should be played. The host team should be Shekinah Christian, but I'm not sure their facility is allowed to host a district tournament game.
Yeah, I don't know.
They might have moved
that's a great
elsewhere.
If we know, we know they're getting a new one, right?
Correct, but they do not have it
ready yet. Yeah, so
and the neighborhood school would be Johnny Alder. And who knows what's happening at Pioneer High.
Yeah.
Okay. They're getting
It's a good venue if you can get in there. It's a great venue.
Well, let me just tell you, it's getting closer and closer to the Der Dutchman, which is important when you're on 42. But Fisher Shekinah would be the game. That's a great district semifinal game in my mind. And then, that would be, to me, the key district semifinal game between those 2, Shekinah and Fisher. And then in the finals, there's a chance of having Shekinah, who is split with Northside Christian. Northside got them the last time by about 20.
Okay.
They're the number 3 seed. They're lined up with Shekinah. All right. Ridgedale looks to be, on paper, the favorite to get out of their half of the bracket. and they would be playing probably, if we go by, Patriot Prep, and that's the other district final.
Okay.
So Division 7, once again, pretty competitive.
Yeah. And we haven't had to say Division 7 before this year, right?
Unless you're playing oblong ball and the ball doesn't, that doesn't count because the ball doesn't bounce straight up and down.
No, it does not. Often away from whoever wants it. Yeah.
I'm not even sure is that an American sport? But that's
I'm going to let you fight that one another day. Hey, one thing too, on the girls' side, if you want to go experience the Fairgrounds Coliseum, also known, I have a hard time calling it the Ohio Expo Center because to me it's the Coliseum. But what if you want to see a day's worth of games this Saturday? They start at 10 o'clock. They're going to play 5 Division I district games. Excuse me. And the last game is at, I want to say 8:30. So it goes from a 10 a.m. start, 5 games, the last one starting at about 8:30. Those are the days that we remember, right? Of going and just staying all day.
Are they going to empty the place, or are they going to one ticket gets you in all day?
I don't know the answer to that. I would guess they're going to empty it.
It used to be your one admission. You were there all day long because, believe me, I was.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, a lot of us, right?
But now with district championships being played, and that's what this
is. I would guess they might empty it.
They're going to clear it, bring them back. But, boy, they better be on their game because that's a lot of bodies to be moving.
Yeah, that is. It is. But what fun to be able to see basketball at that level. And fortunately, we've seen this resurgence or initial surge of interest in the girls' game that is beyond what even, good days were. And people are starting to appreciate the athleticism and, where they can send their girls to play and, all the same things that the boys have had for a long time. So you're going to see some really good basketball. And you're going to be able to be, again, if you're a junkie, if you're just a basketball, I got to have a guy or gal, you want to go this Saturday to the Fairgrounds. I hope you don't have to buy 5 tickets, but
well,
maybe there's a way to get a day pass or something.
Yeah. One of the interviews we had last year, and it got eaten up by the tape recorder, was our interview with Coach Marianne Grimes.
Oh, I know.
That was just such a phenomenal.
And we're going to get her again. We're going to get her to do that because that was a fantastic interview. Yeah.
She was phenomenal. And again, we're trying to promote not only, the majority of the time we have spent dealing with boys basketball, but, there's been outstanding basketball girls programs in this area as well.
Well,
and
there's so many good stories. Yeah.
Was big time in getting that going.
Yeah, she really was, because she was hanging up there with one of the great all-time coaches in her youth.
Oh yeah, Coach Huggins.
Yeah, and once you're around Coach Huggins, man, you're in basketball for the rest of your life. That's just the way.
Yeah, I think he might impact you, Ted.
Yeah. So we'll get her again because again, the equipment, it's the one time it has bitten me in the last, decade or so, and it just broke my heart. So we'll get her. We want to tell everybody also that our website is up. The relaunch happened earlier this week. We'll be adding to it. Obviously, this show will be part of that and all the other things that we'll be doing. So take a look at cbusports.com when you get a chance. We talked about 270 Hoops, their Substack. You're going to get a lot of great information there for $5 a month. That doesn't hurt at all. But most important for you and me is that we're going to be able to, even though you're in the warmer climes at the moment, we're going to be still watching some games and taking in what we can and talking to people we know about what's going on. And next week, it's only going to get better. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff.
This is certainly an exciting time of the year. Again, we talked about all the different types of games and the impact that these games, non-league games versus the tournament games and a league championship game at the Olentangy. If you like high school basketball, you should be smiling ear to ear because it's just right into March Madness on TV with the NCAAs, and it's fun stuff. Great time of year.
Well, I'm sure you and I, there'll be some texts going in between, and we'll talk some more. And then we'll have another show for everybody next week. So thanks, Coach. We'll just keep moving along.
That we do.
All right,
Somehow we're getting her done.
We'll get it done. All right. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks.